mistakes clearly, but was a Sicilian in which you developed quite well. It pushed the pawn, you took the pawn. Now you trade the knight.
Yes.
So now
And
you
now he needs
know
to take it with a pawn.
exactly. He's forced exactly. He has to take it with the pawn. Then you remove the bishop. Okay, keeping
Yep.
pressure against the
Yep.
pawn. You maybe this move I don't know because maybe as we say it is good for you to trade pieces. So if one day you will take your knight and you take with the queen, it's okay. So probably I don't need to remove the knight. I can play c3 to fortify my knight or move my rook on e1 in a open line. Then okay, bishop e3 correct because you want to block the weakness. Queen d2 correct to put the other attackers. And as we say, trade pieces is in your favor. So trade it's correct. And now c3 it's okay. Or even bishop d4 with the same d2. But c3 is fine. And then okay, then he didn't know how to defend the pawn.
Yeah, exactly.
And he pushed d4, you won the pawn, and then you won quite easily because then he didn't understand exactly what to do, and he lost some pieces. And now clearly you have a winning endgame. I think did you mean this game, right?
Yes, exactly.
Exactly. Isolate central pawn. As I said, it's important because clearly if you don't make big blunders, then the game is logical. It's clear that imagine your plan is to attack this pawn, and at one point you play. I'm saying something stupid, right? But just as an example, imagine you play this move. Every strategy we study is completely useless if you give the knight for free, right? So because it's always we are playing for a small advantage, so we must be good to don't make clearly big mistakes at the same time. Talking about pawns, I want to show this position is quite interesting that you played on the recent games. This was around 1 week ago, something like that, and you played it with black. Imagine now you have to take a choice here in this position. What's your idea?
Okay, give me some time.
Sure.
But here I need to play d5. Right? Because I'm defending my knight and attacking his bishop.
Okay, you're right, but also for another reason.
And also I don't want so he plays d5.
Exactly. It's important for you to avoid that he could play d5. So yeah, you must play d5. In the game, you didn't play d5. You played castle.
Ah, really?
Yes.
Okay.
That's why.
Okay.
That's why I'm asking. And then after d5, maybe your pieces lose a bit of.
Okay, but maybe I was afraid. Maybe I was afraid of yeah.
The open line, you mean?
Yeah. So he put.
Yeah, but you could have time to then to play it later.
Yeah. You are correct. Yes.
And you can solve this problem. Okay, just this. Just one thing about the opening, because this opening is quite common, so just one idea that can happen. So imagine you're playing a game like the previous game in which will happen something like that. They play c3, you go knight f6, they go d4, takes. For example, in that game you played check, is correct?
Yes.
And then white play bishop d2. Okay, try to continue here. So if I have to do something with black, what do you do in this case?
I remember I was played e4 here. But if it's not correct move, not ideal, then I don't know. Maybe I need probably to take this. Because if I'm not taking it and then I play something maybe like that.
Okay, in this position, for example, considering that he has two connected central pawns, so he has a good center. When your opponent has a good center, if you can, it's very important for you to undermine the enemy structure. So in this particular case, what can you imagine?
So d5 again, right?
Exactly, that's the point. Again, d5 is the move. For two reasons. Number one, you remove one of the central pawn. Second, you create a nice little pawn because he has to take his force because you're attacking both.
Yeah. But what about give me but if he goes like that,
Okay, I take the bishop
should I take
and then take the pawn.
Okay. But then he like
Yeah, but the material is the same. There is always the pawn here, so I can castle, right? So I mean, the material is always even. We have 6 pawns against 6 pawns, but he has the isolated central pawn before.
Yes.
So the result we can say is similar at the hand. Okay, so this just to have a small review about pawns, about ideas related with pawns, because the key point for me for a good chess player is understand well how to use the pawns. That's one idea very, very important. Or how to play against the pawns, how to play with pawns, and so on. Let's review one game that you played against Olavi that is quite interesting. That you played with black. Sorry, with white. You played it with white, so through the board. I want to show some key points of the game. Then, if you have questions, feel free to ask me. Right. So, but
okay.
I go forward with the moves. It was d4, cd4, knight d4, e5, knight b5, knight d6. He must take. Queen takes, queen e7, and now you can choose what to do. Okay, usually considering that he has some weaknesses, it's considered better for you to keep the queen in the game. Because if you think your pieces can be more active, it's more logical to go back. And when maybe you develop your knight. Maybe one day you can pin the knight. You can castle kingside, and in the future you can always try to win the square d5 with your knight. It's more logical.
Okay.
And
but going back is so hard. I mean, it's psychologically hard. You like losing time.
Okay, this is a very important point because the time is relative, right?
Yeah.
It depends by the situation. There are situations in which the time is very important. You have to play that move now, not in another moment. But there are other positions in which opponent doesn't have moves against you. In that case, you have time to build what you want. In this case, the problem is you're talking about time. Okay, I understand what your point. But what black can do now? Imagine I go back to the one as I said. The question is, what can black play in the meantime? If he has
no, it's bad.
But I can simply push the pawn and force the knight to go away. Or imagine he would play a check, for example. Okay, he could play a check, for example. Yes, it's true, but I can cover with knight. Not because I defend the pawn, so that's why.
Yeah.
Because in theory was making a double attack.
I see.
But the point is that he doesn't have concrete moves for that. And also, we can say that he moved the queen one time, right? So, okay, I moved 2 times, but it's not the end of the world because he also spent a move to move his queen. So at the end, also this can justify the fact that you go back. In general, you don't want to trade the queens when you feel your position is better, you have a better activity, initiative with the pieces. In this case, I think you can have a better initiative because the square d5 and d6 weak are quite important, so...
Okay.
But okay, trade is not the end of the world, the end game is still okay, so it's not a real mistake. Then you play knight c3, that is logical. And now castle. Okay, imagine here what to do. So, imagine you have to take a choice here, is white to play. What do you do? Before to give me the move, try to imagine what should be your plan, your target, something that you want to attack in the next future.
No, here my how to say, my reasoning is very simple. I want to go with white knight, white bishop as soon as possible, and to do a castle.
Okay, but
Basically,
now,
I'm afraid.
yes, because now without the queens, the king is not in big trouble.
Ah, this is also true.
So it's important, right? Because if the queen is in the game, if the lines are open, your king can be in trouble. So you're right, you have to castle as soon as possible. But if there isn't a queen, if the lines are closed, then your king is not in trouble. Here, for example, the file of the king is closed. There are no important diagonals. The dark bishop, there isn't a dark bishop, so your king cannot be attacked by the bishop. So your king is not in danger. That's why the king f is not a priority here.
Okay. It's kind of, I don't know. It's difficult to see. Difficult to see the plan now. I don't know. Maybe.
It's always something related with pawns.
With pawns.
Pawns are the soul of chess, so it's very important.
But what about?
Give me just 1 second. If you remember last time, we talked about a topic that I want to share again. Okay, last time we talked about weak squares. So the squares that cannot be defended by pawns. And we talked about weak pawns that are the pawns that cannot be defended by other pawns. So when inside a position you have pawns that cannot be defended by other pawns, that pawns are weak. So if you look at the black pawns, which pawn cannot be defended by other pawns in the next future?
Basically, here, right?
No, okay. I mean, yes, the h pawn now cannot be defended by another pawn, but if you push, for example, h6 can be defended.
Okay.
So I mean, the pawns that cannot be defended by pawns with normal moves. For example, the b pawn, maybe b5, can be defended by the a pawn a6, for example. But the d pawn, d5 is not available because you win the pawn.
Yeah.
And
This is weak.
So the point is that you must understand that the pawn d7 it's a weakness. And when we are talking about weakness, it's like when you attack the isolated central pawn, you want to block the weakness and you want to attack it. So my priority would be to play on the d file to make pressure against that pawn.
Okay. So
if I have this information, what could be the best development for white?
here and long castle.
Exactly, yes, exactly. So you're right. So if I have this information, I will play bishop e3, maybe b5, and then castle, exactly.
And now he cannot move it anymore, right?
Yes, because d6 is not
This is
available,
taken,
d5 is not
taken.
available, yes, he has problems. Clearly, it's all to play, but this bishop, for example, cannot move, because if he moves the bishop, then you win the pawn. So the pawn is blocked, the bishop is blocked. So okay, the game will continue, but for sure, white is much better here.
Yeah, I do agree. Okay.
So if we go back to the position, so we can say your mistake is that you didn't understand that this 7 was a weakness. That the weakness is in an open line. Because in a game, maybe you can see 1, 2, 3 different weaknesses in the enemy position. But if the weakness is in an open line, clearly it's easier for you to attack it. So d7 in this case is more important because you know that in the next future your rooks can potentially help you to attack the pawn on d7. Okay, so this is okay. Another topic that I want to write that I didn't write before was the topic of the king safety, right? So when there is queen e7 in the game, your thought was, okay, I want to castle as soon as possible. That in this case is wrong for the reasons that we said, And you're blocking the line. That should help you to attack, right? So you're blocking the line. And another problem is that you allow him to play knight b4 is a good move because in general the bishop is stronger of the knight. So if he could try his knight for the bishop, it's in his favor. So
yeah, but on my level with knight, the knight gives me more problems. So it's kind of
yeah, and I understand this point of view, but the risk, you know why? The risk is that if you set my level, the knight gives me more problem than the bishop. Your risk is that you keep always the same level. Because to increase your level, you must be able to prove that the knight is weaker than the bishop, we can say. So yes, I understand. Maybe there is a fork or at the hand with few time. It can be more dangerous. I agree. But for every, we can say, strong player, the bishop is always slightly better than the knight. So clearly, to increase your level, you should improve the tension when the enemy knight can threaten something. So it's more pay more attention about the enemy knight that give the enemy knight more value. That's an important
yeah, makes sense.
Okay, it was able to trade. He played d6, and then he played castle. He played bishop e6. Now you played b4. Rook c1 to fight for the open file. f5, bishop g5. He played knight g6. Okay, now you made a blunder because playing f4 you lost, right? So this is the losing move. Because here maybe you're not better, but it's still playable. After f4 you lost because after h6 you have to go.
Yeah.
And
now I remember. Yes. Because bishop cannot go anywhere.
And you are trust. Okay, f4 is the last mistake, and after that the game is over.
Yeah.
Maybe you can maybe play f3, something like that, to potentially go back or go back to d2 because the bishop on g5 is a bit useless. But your piece now are a bit passive, so it's not maybe a great position for you. The topics we said, the main topics are number 1, see the enemy weakness d7, so attack it, because if you attack it, clearly you have a nice target. Number 2, remember that when you are more active, trade queens is not your priority, so in this case, better don't trade. And that if you are scared about the time that you give him, the time depends also by the enemy counterplay, so you have to look a little bit more what can you play. And in general, you should avoid the trade of your bishop for the enemy knight if you don't have something for it. That's in which is why to play. So imagine you're playing this game. It's a middle game position, and you have to choose what to do.
First I've considered this, but then I realized maybe it's not a bad.
There isn't a connection between the two positions, but one is important to understand the other. Now I'll tell you something in general. When you play chess, it's important to imagine in which side you want to attack the enemy army, we can say, right? The enemy pieces. So it's like that. This is the battleground in which we are fighting. We have 64 squares. We can say that at the beginning we have the white area with 32 squares and the black area with other 32 squares. So what happens if you play in general? If you attack in all the lines, your attack in general will be weak because you don't have coordination between the pieces. In general, it's better focus your attention in one area and attack only that area and maybe defend in the other area.
So basically, flank, and center.
Exactly, yes. So
three areas.
Exactly. Like this, maybe the center is closed, so it's more queen side or king side. But as you said, there are other situations which maybe there is center, king side, or queen side. Exactly. There are maybe we can have or 2 areas or 3 areas exactly that we have to consider for attack. But it's very important for you to imagine, to understand where you want to attack. Because imagine you're the general, you have your army, and you said your army, okay, attack, let's see what happens, right? It doesn't make sense. But you have
I think
to tell
I
me.
think I need to attack because like I heard somewhere or read somewhere that if your pawns look this way, then you need to attack on
In that area, in the
uh,
area of
yeah,
the
yeah,
pawn
yeah,
chain, we can say,
yeah.
okay. Why? So what's the logic about that?
I don't know. This is more tricky question.
Yeah,
Uh,
it's a
m- m- m-
no,
Maybe because I have more space here, right?
you have more space for the d pawn.
Yeah,
So it's like
yeah.
that your d pawn can help you to control c5
So yeah,
or e5 that
mm-hmm,
are more on the left side in this case. So you, as you said, you have more space, a little more space
mm-hmm.
on the queen side in this case. But my question is, do you choose the attack only considering the space, or do you consider also other elements to choose in which side you want to attack?
Uh, to be honest, I'm not even considering this, but
Oh,
the
oh,
I
we should consider exactly.
yeah. This is why we are here to learn. But to be honest, when I play a game, I'm trying to find like some tactics, some moves, like practical moves, which gives me advantage.
Okay, if there are moves that can give you advantage, perfect. But the problem is that very often in your games there are
Mm-hmm.
situations which you don't have nothing to take an advantage. In this
Mm-hmm.
case, is the case in which you have to think more strategically
Mm-hmm.
to
Mm-hmm.
have
Mm-hmm.
a general idea. Let's write down the elements that you consider. For sure, as you said, one element to consider is the space. So in general, you attack
Mm-hmm.
where do you have more space.
Mm-hmm.
When we say space, what do we mean? So what's the what do you mean when you say space in chess?
Basically, this is the line, uh, these two lines,
Okay.
and who is more advanced, then there is like more space for me to develop.
Do you mean with the pieces in general or with the pawns? So
With the pawns, and
exactly. So in general, more your pawns are advanced, more you have space, more you have control, and you can then bring the other pieces. So one
mm-hmm,
element to consider to attack is for sure the space,
mm-hmm,
as we said. Another element clearly to attack, because yes, you can have space, but without pieces, there is no attack, right? So
yeah,
you
yeah,
need the space, as you said, but clearly you need pieces that must
mm-hmm,
support your attack. When we say pieces, we mean knights, bishops, queen, rooks, and so on.
mm-hmm,
So we need pieces to attack, and we need other two ideas that are important: open lines,
mm-hmm,
because clearly, if I have open lines, my pieces can attack better. Like in this case, which I have the c file open, is
mm-hmm,
potentially an element that is
mm-hmm,
my favor to attack on the queen side. And another element important to consider are the enemy weaknesses. In general, it's easier for me to attack where there are more weaknesses in the enemy side.
mm-hmm.
When we say weaknesses, what do we mean?
Cannot be defended by pawns.
Exactly, squares or pawns. So in this case, for example, c6 is a weak square because cannot be defended by pawns.
Mm-hmm,
Or d6 is a weak square, or b6 is a weak square, a5, c5, d5, a6. a6 and
mm-hmm,
d5 are two weak pawns because no other pawns
mm-hmm.
can defend it there.
Yes, agree. Yeah, agree.
So this example is an easy example because it's
Mm-hmm.
clear that all the elements are going in one direction because space, pieces, open lines, any weaknesses are all more on the queen side. So it's
Mm-hmm.
clear that white should attack on the queen side.
Okay.
So the first step in the chess thinking is understand where I want to attack.
Mm-hmm.
You have to imagine chess like a medieval battle, right? It's like that you have
Mm-hmm.
the general, there is an army, you have to attack the weaker point of your enemy, because then you destroy the defense, and in this way you take the advantage, and then you can go for the king. So it's like a very good example of strategy also for medieval battles, something like that. So clearly, if we understand where to attack, we don't answer another important question: how to attack, right? Because clearly, even if I know that I should attack on the queen side, the difficult question is how can I attack on the queen side. Try to answer this question. So imagine you have to attack on the queen side. Try to imagine moves that can help you to attack there.
This.
Why?
Because I don't want this, and I don't want my knight to be here to attack this, maybe.
Well, let's imagine it will castle. How do you continue there?
Oops. Castle.
Yeah.
Here.
You lost a piece.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay, you can try again. We can try to.
Yeah, I have this little problem in me. I'm doing moves too fast. When I blunder, it's like half of the time I move a piece, and then like I understand. Oh fuck! What I did. So it's
The problem is understand if the enemy position is strong or not. Because if you think that the enemy position is strong, you should weaken the enemy position first. If you think the enemy position is weak, then you can attack directly. And even here, I think this can be an important question to understand then how to proceed.
Give me a minute, half minute. Okay. I don't know. I'm considering maybe this or this.
Yeah, but now you're looking the other side, right? So it's you're
Yeah, but it's on our side. Yeah.
so it's not connected with the idea.
Oh, sorry. It was weak pawn. But I don't know. Maybe. Maybe. I don't know, man. I don't know what to do.
Okay.
Like I don't have a plan for. I don't see how.
Okay, now I'm going to say other things. My advice is clearly this lesson is probably more difficult than the first lesson, so my advice is just review many times to try to implement the ideas that we're talking, because basically today we're talking about the base of the strategy that can be easy and hard at the same time, because yes, after maybe make practice can be easier, but at the beginning clearly it's a bit harder to understand. But it's very important to understand that this is the way to really understand the game we can say at advanced level. So to understand the game at advanced level, I must have this strategical approach. It's necessary.
But what about this? Can I? No.
Before I told you, you must understand if the enemy position is strong or not. The problem that you have now is that for now the enemy structure is not so weak and it's difficult to attack it.
Yeah.
Because you tried with the knight on before, but then I was able to push the pawn and your knight has to go back. Then you tried with the sacrifice. Yes, but if you sacrifice, then you have to justify that the sacrifice is makes sense.
It's probably not correct because he can just
take back,
Yeah.
hover with the bishop, and seems
yeah.
that black will be okay.
Mm-hmm.
So the problem is that you must understand that the enemy position is not so weak. Also
Mm-hmm.
because black has a lot of space here, so your pieces are
Mm-hmm.
limited, so are not so easy to play there. If you
Maybe
realize that the enemy has a lot
something
of
like
space,
that.
you can imagine to undermine maybe playing a4, for example. This can be one idea. But you have two purposes. One purpose is to remove the name space. Another purpose for you is to open the position. Because
Mm-hmm.
in the side in which you want to attack, you want to open the position more you can. So if you play a4, that is logical because if you trade the pawns, you open the position. The problem is that what black will do here.
Advance the pawn.
Exactly. And that's a problem because then your knight has to move and is blocking a little bit the position. So you want to open and you want to allow him to play before that can block the position. So having this idea in mind, which other idea can I consider for white that can help me to do that at the end?
Advance and open. But I don't know, maybe a3. But a3 also doesn't give much. And it's not opening anything, right?
Yeah, because you must understand at the end what's your purpose. So your purpose is to open the position at the end.
Mm-hmm. Oh.
Okay, let's write something. The point is that to attack, I can have potentially a lot of ideas. Potentially, I can my idea can be to take space
Mm-hmm.
to eliminate the enemy space, for example. I'm going to write everything I'm saying just to
Please.
have all
Please.
saved. So my idea can be okay. I know I want to attack. I know I want to attack on the queen side.
Mm-hmm.
My question can be number one. Should I need more space? Okay, if I need more space, I will push one pawns, for example, right?
Mm-hmm.
Another question can be, should I remove the enemy space? Because maybe you don't need more space, but you need to remove the enemy space.
No.
If you want to remove the enemy space, what can be the idea? Oops, what happened?
Maybe I don't know. I
no,
want to move this knight so that I have this. Oops.
no,
I
but
have this
try to
file.
answer my question. If I want to remove the enemy space, what could be the move to remove the enemy space?
Should I remove enemy space? But just hmm, just how to say attack with pawns. At try to trade with this, so it's removed.
Yeah, but I want to remove the space in the side which I want to attack.
But
Because
here I don't see anything. Like, nope. What can I do? It's this I can. It doesn't give much.
no, okay. The point is that to remove space, you need to remove b5 or d5.
Yes.
So if you want to remove d5, there isn't a pawn to do that. If you want to remove b5, the only move is a4.
Mm-hmm.
So if you want to remove space, the idea would be a4 potentially.
Mm-hmm. But here it doesn't go, right?
Yeah, but that's a different story. Yes, the fact that the move doesn't work is a different story. I'm saying for now that if I want to remove space, the move will be a4. That is, if the move is good or wrong, it's a different story.
Oops, sorry.
It will be a next step, right? In which I check if it's good or not. But if I want to remove the space, a4 will be the move. Number 3, I can add attackers. Can I add new attackers? Okay, potentially the idea could be knight c2, for example, right? So if you play knight c2, knight b4, you add another attacker.
Mm-hmm.
Number 4, can I remove the enemy defenders?
Ah, enemy defenders. Yeah.
If it's possible, I don't know. I'm saying a lot of things that I don't know if in this position there is a possibility, right? I'm saying just the key questions to do. Can I weaken the enemy position, creating weaknesses? Or
Mm-hmm.
can I remove my weaknesses? So sometimes can be a good idea to remove your weakness to maybe attack, for
Mm-hmm.
example. Question number 7, can I open new line? Or can I close lines? Because maybe sometimes can be useful to close a
Mm-hmm.
line. So what I mean is that when once you understand your attack should be on the queen side, you must understand what's your priority. Do you need space? Do you need pieces? Do you need lines? Do you need weaknesses? Depending by what you think is your priority, you will choose what to do. And in general, you want to open in the side in which you want to attack. You want to close in the side in which you are defending. So, in this case, what do you think is your priority? So, not the move, but just the general idea.
But maybe I want to attack this. And my priority to open this line, because I already have this rook here. And maybe bring this guy closer to battle.
Yeah, but the difference is that d5 cannot be attacked by pawns. b5, yes. So if you want to remove space, the target should be b5. Because it's
Mm-hmm.
the pawn that can be attacked by another pawn.
Mm-hmm.
But we have a problem because he could push.
Mm-hmm.
So the logic is, first I block the pawn.
Ah.
And then I play
And
a4.
then attack. Uh-huh. Okay. It's not easy. At least for me.
Imagine it will castle, for example, I play a4. Now the pawn is under attack 3 times. So he has
Mm-hmm.
to take the pawn. I take with a knight. And the good thing is that now the target is clear. Because the
Yes.
line against the target is open. The diagonal is open. So you have a lot of pieces that can make pressure against that pawn.
Mm-hmm.
And now, okay, white has a good attack. The game is not finished, it has to continue because clearly white doesn't have a very big advantage, but it's clear that white is better in this position, and we can try to create slowly a win at the end. Is it make sense? This
Yes, it makes sense. But yeah.
clearly, as I said at the
Now
beginning,
understand.
is not easy. It's not easy, and that's why I told you that it's something to repeat. Because maybe if you don't review, you can forget. Because the difficult thing for you is not understand because it's something understandable for you, but the difficult thing is to apply it. So very often it's good to review because review the same thing 2, 3, 4, 5 times can help you at the end to be able to apply at the end, because after you read it 4 or 5 times you understand that it's important, and if you really understand that it's important, then it's also easier to apply in your own games. If you play a game tomorrow, maybe you're not able to apply it immediately because clearly it's something to repeat more.
Yeah, I do agree. We have a saying in Russian that repetition is mother of learning.
Yeah, I read it exactly. Exactly, and I think yes, it's very true because it's something that it's necessary, because sometimes the problem is that we have the ambitious that we read something one time and we can immediately understand exactly what the author is saying with that, but it's not easy to understand what the other are saying. So that's why also, in my opinion, it's very important. Now we can go back to see this position that was.
It's scaring me.
But try try
So.
try to do the same thing. So try to imagine number one where you want to attack using the ideas that we said, and then we can try to imagine how to attack at the hand.
Mm-hmm. I have a question.
Tell me.
So basically, with weak pawns, is it weak like now? It's a weak, or it's weak. For example, uh, let's say he cannot do it now, but maybe if I go here and then do something, he can. If we remove this.
Yeah, exactly. But when we talk about weak pawns, we mean something in the
Like
long term. In the long term,
long
now,
term,
now,
okay.
now, as you said, yes, potentially the B pawn that for now cannot be defended by other pawns, having the A pawn, if the A4 and the C4 are not there, you can go B5. That's true. But we can consider always a weakness. Maybe not so big at the moment, but it's always a weakness because it's not so easy to use this pawn at the moment. So maybe A6, B6, D6 are weaknesses that we can consider long-term weaknesses. Then it's clear that the D6, for example, imagine the D6 pawn is weak for sure, but it's less weak than the pawn that you have in your game against Olavi if we make a comparison. So if we go back to the game that you played against Olavi, it's clear that in this case the D7 pawn is weaker because the line is open than here, in which yes it's weak but the line is closed. So yes, then you have to understand that inside the weaknesses there are weaknesses with different value, and it depends by the defenders, by the attackers, by the open lines,
Okay. I don't know. I don't know. I with intuition says me that I should attack on king side.
why?
Because with 3 pawns I already moved.
Okay,
With to
but
move
let's use
moved from a king.
let's use the method that we said. So we'll talk about space. Where do you have more space here?
Here.
Okay, but you can consider also the other pawns. So I mean, you can consider also the other pawns, right? So not only the most advanced pawn. So
Okay. So space, of course, I have on the queen side.
okay, if you consider space, you have more on the queen side. Your
Yes,
pieces where
of course.
can help you more. Talking about the pieces where the
Pieces also on the queen side.
okay.
Pieces
Weaknesses where there are more weaknesses in the enemy territory. In which side there are more?
What? No. I don't know. Should I consider this as a weakness?
Yeah,
Because
clearly. It's because no pawns can defend the square, so it's or a pawn or a weak square.
okay.
The same thing for a6, c6, d6, e6, f6, and h6. So these are all the weaknesses that we can see in this position: weak squares or weak pawns.
Okay, so it's also more on queen side.
Slightly more on the queen side.
Yes.
There aren't open files at the moment,
Yes.
so it's a rational way to choose, right? Because your way to choose is more emotional. I have the feeling that I should attack on the king side, but then your emotions maybe sometimes are correct, sometimes not.
Yeah. True.
And considering all the elements, so where do you attack in this case?
Mm-hmm.
So what should be the right side in this case?
Then of course it's queen.
Is the queen side, exactly. Because you have more
Because
space,
I
more pieces. So
more
it's the
space, more pieces, yeah, and more weaknesses on the opponent.
exactly. Then we have always the other question, quite interesting to answer: how to attack, right? Because okay, once we understand is the queen side, how can we attack in that area?
Open files. I'm thinking about opening B file or A file. Remove defenders, but there is no much defenders, or bring more attackers.
Remember
I don't
that
know.
you want to open. When I say open, I mean remove pawns. Mm-hmm.
No. I don't know. It doesn't seem like it.
But let's go to see that line that you were saying. So imagine a5, b5 takes. Okay, take on c5. If he
Yeah,
takes,
but he just take and that's it.
yeah, but then I take with the knight, and then what happened? I
Ah.
open lines and have more rooms for my pieces. I have a pass pawn. I have another pass pawn on the d file, so I have some elements in my favor, right? So I can also maybe remove my knight first. And then
Mm-hmm.
maybe my next target will be the spawn. So I opened the position on the side which have more pieces. This gives me more resources to take an advantage at the end.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah, actually, yes, maybe. Yeah.
So imagine this pawn, for example, the pawn before. Yeah, it's
Mm-hmm.
pushing, it's a pass pawn, but there are
But
more.
where is knight? Yeah, where is? I can just move this knight here. If he's not pushing, I can put my knight here and that's it.
Yeah, I can put the rook to attack the pawn directly,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
Or imagine it takes on a5.
Wait a
So
second,
sure,
please. Uh-huh. And it's also isolated now.
exactly, it's isolated
It's.
inside the white pieces. So all the white pieces are there, and there is this pawn alone that is trying to do something, but
Mm-hmm.
it's
Yeah,
impossible
yeah,
because there are
yeah.
too many pieces of the white there. And after b takes a5, what do you do there? In this case.
Oh. Oh. I'm looking at this.
Okay, there is the knight here, so I don't know if he will take with the rook. Maybe he will take with the.
Yeah, of course.
But mainly once he takes here, I don't take the pawn a5. I don't think take the pawn a5 is a priority for white. But I always take the pawn c5
Ah, yeah, it's even better. Because
because
line is open now.
And the two pawns on the a5
And two
are always
pawns. Yeah,
are always
very.
very weak.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, it's
Now,
much better.
yeah, now white has two connected pass pawns that are very strong, and the a
It's
pawns
okay.
for white as are terrible now. So it's clear that white is much better here. That's one logic, very very important.
Okay.
So in this case, we have the topic that we understand the white plan is to attack on the king side. How can we understand that? Because we have more space, more pieces. So it's clear that if I have more space and more pieces, I have to play in that side. Then the question is how to attack. In general, as I said, open the position, it's important. So it's important to remove pawns, because if you don't remove pawns, your pieces cannot join. And if your pieces cannot join, you cannot attack. So it's very important to understand where you can break the enemy structure. And in this particular case, pushing a5, you are going to destroy more the structure, because now you are attacking b6 and c5 at the same time. So in every move you play, you have always the way to open the position. Potentially, you could also take here with the pawn, but you can take with the knight, and you're threatening the fork. So you should cover the fork, probably playing bishop d7, and then maybe you can take. And now you have a nice attack on a6, for example. But again, the position is open and where white has more pieces, so in general this can really help you to play for the advantage.
Yeah.
Uh,
Yeah. It's not. It's hard. It's hard.
yeah, and it's not always true that we must attack the king. And that's also another point, right? Because depending by the position, there are positions which maybe attack the king can be convenient. Other positions in which attack the king doesn't make sense. It depends by the situation, by the piece that we're in the board, by this piece. And so it's also very important, something of today, understand the king's safety. The king's safety depends by the position, but depends also by the pieces that are inside the game. So going back to the game that you played, for example, if we make a small connection, we understand that in this position, your king on e1 has no problem of king safety, for the simple reason that there aren't the queens in the game, the lines are closed, there aren't pieces that can really attack the king, so the king safety is not a problem for white. So we can say white has no problem. White has the bishop pair, that is in your favor, and black has a weakness. That's why in this position, after knight c3 castle, white is clearly better. So I mean, but when you play your games, it's very important to understand when the king safety is important and when not. Because if not, you can delay the castle, you can do other things that can be also important. If your king is in trouble, okay, you will castle, you will defend. And it depends, as I said, also by the pieces that there are inside the board. It's a very important key element to remember. Last example that we said, the priority was to open the position. If I want to open, clearly I will consider where my pawns can break the enemy structure, and this is the key idea to remember. Okay, in this case, to attack, I need to open the position. Do you have questions?